and it worked every time. We tried a couple of healings. They worked absolutely. Both people said they absolutely felt strong energy.
Mm-hmm.
I know all this sounds like woo-woo stuff, but I'm telling you,
it's powerful.
It absolutely worked. And so then would you think it would be true that many minds concentrating on some result or influence are more powerful than a single mind at that attempt?
Yes. Aaron's book, The Maharishi Effect, shows the results of studies that were done in terms of crime prevention and in terms of other social effects. The caller who is saying that things are getting worse, well, Socrates said that society was going to the dogs, and so we hear that in the Bible too.
Yes.
I don't know whether humanity is any worse or any better, but at least Hawkins' work would suggest that our level of consciousness rose from what he calls 190 level to 204 during the 80s when the harmonic convergence was occurring. So I'm hopeful that the Y2K time period, where everybody was poised mentally to find out what would happen, might have been a moment when a lot of minds are concentrating and hoping for the better.
Well, that's an interesting view of it.
It may well be that calibration now would show another increase in our level of awareness.
Well, that's really an interesting view of the whole Y2K thing. In other words, so much concentration and concern about it may have produced a favorable result.
Yes. Wouldn't that be a kick?
Yeah, wouldn't that be a kick? Because there were people who said there were certain absolutes that would occur, that there were embedded chips and and electric company stuff, and certain things were inevitable, and yet they didn't happen.
Right. That's the interesting thing about prediction and prophecy. Some people have pointed out that prediction is an intellectual exercise and prophecy is an emotional exercise. It's meant to change our behavior. You know, the mother who says, "Watch out, kid, if you don't hold on to the handlebars of your bicycle, you'll fall off, you'll hit your head, your eyeball will roll out, you'll go down in the ocean into the sea, and a fish will eat it." Well, the mother isn't prophesying that. She's trying to prevent it, and so she wants the child to change his behavior. In the same way, so many prophecies seem to be horrendous, and yet the attempt is to change behavior. I recall when I was in the service, the sergeants would yell at us, "Pay attention, men, this may save your life in Korea." And all of the terrible things that we were told might happen, we were supposed to pay attention so they wouldn't happen.
I was told exactly the same thing. It was about Vietnam when I was in Lackland.
Yeah.
Pay attention. Absolutely right. That's right. No, that's just exactly the way it said it.
So we paid attention.
That's right. Of course, it works. To come from the background that you come from, hard science and military background and all the rest of it, to where you are now, that's an awfully big journey.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, I was one of the lucky ones. I was married, and so I was sent to Germany, and unmarried men were sent to Korea. And many people have said over the years, when you think in terms of the terrible things that are going on with UFO ET encounters, well, I also see the terrible things that are going on between people. And I talk with a lot of persons who come from backgrounds where they've been raped or incested, or they have been abused emotionally, spiritually, and sometimes it's very depressing to see what humans do to other humans.
Sure is.
But on the other hand, I also see the strength and vitality of people, and I've seen some people who rise above those experiences and come to recognize that when they learn to forgive others, when they learn to forgive themselves for being in those kind of situations, that they recognize them as important lessons, but not as threatening as they once saw. And so,
speaking of threatening, the work of Dr. Jacobs, I would bet you read a book called The Threat, which really lays out a case that, yes, all of this is absolutely real, but come on, wise up, folks. These are not our friends. They're not doing friendly things. And he views it as a threat. How do you weigh in on that?
Yeah, in his earlier book, The Secret Life, and his first book on the UFO controversy in America, based upon his PhD dissertation. I know Dave, and we're friends, and we disagree, and I suspect there are a lot of good reasons why he has obtained the kind of data that he has from UFO experiencers, and I have seen some of those same kinds of situations, but I've also seen other kinds of situations with people describing them. And instead of just focusing on abductions, some people focus on adductions. You know, we can abduct, take away, and adduct, go toward. And some people think of themselves as being taken away from Earth, and some people think of themselves as being taken toward the stars. Just like when I was in the service in '52, some guys around me said we were taken out of our homes, we were
with the accounts of medical experimentation, that kind of thing, pretty widespread. Yes,
but there are other experiences besides the Greys and besides the negative ETs. There's a nice little book by Dr. Bill Baldwin called CE6 Encounters with Negative Aliens, and his work is releasing people from those kinds of experiences, those kind of relationships.
So then you don't disagree that there may be some races that are not necessarily, that don't have our best interests in mind.
There are, but you see, if you look at it, just like going down the street, you can turn toward a policeman or you can turn toward a thug in the alley, and the question is, why are some people headed down the alley and why are some people walking down the street?
We're at the top of this hour. Do you want to stick around and answer a few phone questions?
Sure.
Okay, good. Stay right where you are then. Dr. Leo Sprinkle is my guest. We'll be right back.
This is Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell.
You know, there's a lot of energy in this record, and I think that's what I like about it. Dr. Leo Sprinkle, you should have been paying attention to those phone numbers because we're going to open the phone lines and let you ask whatever question you want coming up in a moment. Here's something to think about. I kind of like this. All right, I've always wondered if the Greys are friendly, sane beings or evil, insane beings. I think you may have stumbled on the perfect litmus test for them. Ramona's cookies versus orange test. Would they choose the cookie or the orange? If they go for the cookie, we're okay. But if they go for the orange, we're in trouble. Right, Art? I don't know. By the way, the man who wrote that fax to me about the Greys being friendly, sane beings or evil, insane beings, he finishes up by saying, you know, Art, I don't think I want to be in a federation of beings that can pass up a chocolate chip cookie for an orange. Welcome back, Doctor. We're about to go to the phones, but here's one other really, really interesting fact, responding to the first fax I had. To the person who says that he can't remember his past lives, and hence they don't exist. Can he remember what he did on January 4th, 2 years before, make that after he was born? The answer to that's obviously no. So does that part of his life not exist? In other words, how much can we really remember, even in this life, let alone what happened a few centuries ago? That's a really good point, isn't it?
Good point.
So we don't remember in the first year or two of life. We were alive, but we have no memories of it, none at all. And so...
some people do.
Well, I know they claim they do, but I don't know.
Well, if there's a book called Children Remember Birth by Chamberlain, and there's some good examples of people recalling consciously and some in meditation or hypnosis recalling events and then checking back with mother or family members who confirm the events. So is that psychic, or is that what we consider memory? Good. It raises a lot of interesting questions.
I can remember wearing diapers. Now, that's an ugly thought. It is an ugly thought. I hated diapers. And that's about as early as I can remember. You remember that?
I can't remember back that far, no. My earliest memory...
Maybe you progressed straight to something else.
I remembered another event. There's some good work by various psychoanalysts regarding earliest recollection and how we may choose something that happened when we were 7 years old or 5 or 4 or 3, but we choose an event that tells us something about life, whether life is threatening or comfortable, whether people are pleasant or mean, and something about the way we perceive ourselves. So the earliest recollection may not necessarily be the earliest event that we could have remembered, but we glom onto it according to this notion.